Hello and welcome. I'm speaking in front of the 100 best people managers in India. And the topic that I'm asked to speak on is the science behind people management. I realize it's like my trying to teach cricket to the Indian cricket team or carry coal to Newcastle. It's a very daunting topic. So I'm going to keep it very simple and talk only about four things. The first is when we talk about people management, what's so different about people? The second topic that I'm going to talk about is who is a great people manager? Then I'm going to talk about how do you apply the skills of a great people manager in an organizational context. And of course, for that, you have to understand what are the secrets of a great people manager. So let me first start with the first question, which is about what is so different about people. Compare us with the closest species that we have, the chimpanzees. 98.6% of our DNA is common. If you were to give a puzzle, let us say a puzzle of wooden blocks, to a chimp and to a human child, and if you give them enough time and motivation, say a banana and a chocolate, both of them will solve the puzzle. We know that. But in thousands of years, the chimps are unable to do something that human beings do effortlessly. What am I referring to? Have you ever seen 5 chimps carry a piece of log which is too heavy for one of them to carry by himself or herself? Why is it that human beings are the only ones who are capable of planning something that requires not 5, maybe 50, 500, 1,000, thousands of people to come together and work towards a common goal? We call it shared intentionality. Shared intentionality is what sets aside human beings as a species. The moment we could come together as a tribe, as a community, as a group to achieve some common goals, whether it was hunting, whether it was scavenging for food, or later on agriculture, we could colonize the planet. That's when we moved out of Africa. And the single biggest difference, therefore, is the shared intent. But we have one problem with shared intent. And the problem is the problem of what I call as the freeloader problem. That means if 5 human beings are carrying a piece of log, the third one, for example, may not be pulling his weight. How do you know? Everyone is pulling his or her weight. Imagine everyone is working from home. How do you know? Everyone is working for the number of hours that he or she is supposed to work. Now, this is a huge dilemma, isn't it? Because if progress were to happen at the level of the community or the tribe, then do we have any tools to really control or influence the behavior of the members of that particular tribe? We have some evidence. And what kind of evidence is that? For example, there are some warrior tribes where people have been aggressive over generations. For example, the Gurkhas or the Rajputs in the past. Now, this does not make sense from a evolutionary biology point of view, because you can't go out and fight others and expect that your genes have a better chance of being passed on, because you might die. So therefore, the best strategy for evolution is, if you are a member of the warrior tribe, for you to egg on others. You will say something like, "Aap aage badho, hum tumhare saath hai." So I am with you, you go ahead and fight, but you will not go to fight yourself. That's not what we see. We see for generations there are people who are willing to go out, fight and die. And this could not be explained by Darwin's theory of evolution, because Darwin's theory of evolution says that I must, to pass on my genes, I must survive, and going out to war is not a great strategy. But we realize it happens because there are social and psychological rewards that override biology or simply the desire to pass on my genes. What are those rewards? When I come back, I am feted as a hero. Suddenly, people want to know me. There are people who are willing to offer their daughters to these heroes in marriage, and a variety of ways in which the tribe communicates that this is the right thing to do. For example, in one organization where people have been working from home, every quarter each team meets, they discuss the contribution of team members, and then they do a stack ranking of the highest to the lowest contributor, except that this is done anonymously and only the top 50% names in alphabetical order is shared with the team. But people are very keen to be in that top 50%. You see, what we realized is that unconsciously we are programmed in a manner that we really work for something which is even more important than rewards and punishment. People work for reputation more than they work for carrots and sticks. And this is pre-programmed. So you might be interested in knowing if this is pre-programmed and if people are willing to work, fight, do everything in their power for reputation, what are some of the other levers which can be used by managers to influence people in a positive way? We call them the 5 foundations of morality. The first and foremost lever is what we call as care. Now, care is pre-programmed because if we had not cared about our infants, about our children, about babies, then we will not survive as a species. So we are biologically programmed. Whenever we see a baby, whenever we see a kitten or a puppy, as the case might be, or even a teddy bear, we have this fuzzy feeling. Some of us feel like picking them up or cuddling them. Now this particular lever or program in the unconscious brain, which is called caring, is triggered every time I encounter an experience of caring. For example, if I'm in Chennai and my mother is admitted to a hospital and my boss who is in Mumbai gets to know about it, and he takes a flight on a Saturday and comes and visits me and my mother, something happens to me. And I can't even explain what happens to me because my unconscious brain gets triggered. That particular lever that we call as caring got triggered. And I'm going to give you some implications for organizations. Many years back, in one of my workshops, one of the participants described how he was transferred from Chennai to Kolkata in a multinational bank. He was reporting to one Mr. Mukherjee, and his boss, Mr. Mukherjee, for 1 week, he would bring a tiffin from his home, which was made by his wife, Mrs. Mukherjee, and she would cook South Indian food for his team member. And as he explained, that our canteen here does not serve South Indian food. Since you have come from Chennai, I thought you will miss your food. So that's why I decided to bring this tiffin for you. This particular story was recounted 20 years later by his team member in a workshop to me. You see, Mr. Mukherjee probably did not realize that he was unknowingly triggering a part of the unconscious brain that always gets triggered. We have such interesting data from Great Place to Work, because some people said, look, if you care so much for people, they'll sit on your head. How will you ever get performance? So there are 2 statements. One statement says management cares for me as a person, the other one says management is competent. And we said, let us see the correlation between these two. Surprise! It's a straight line. Organizations where majority of people feel that management cares for them as people, they also say that management is competent. It's no surprise that if you have to achieve results, it helps if you know how to care for your people. Lever number 2, fairness. If you don't believe me, watch a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who is playing bat and ball with his friend. Now, imagine a situation where this boy gets out, but he says, you know what, my father bought this bat, so I'm going to take one more turn. Now, the other one is angry, but he continues. Second time it happens, he hurls the ball out and he walks out. Nobody has taught this 3-year-old concepts like equity and fairness. The only explanation is that it is pre-wired in the brain. Lever number 3, this is the third foundation of morality, and it is completely hardwired in our brain. It's called loyalty. The reason why you and I are here is because way back in distant past, our ancestors who passed on their genes to us, they were loyal to maybe their tribe, maybe their community, their group. So when the tribe decided that 5 people will be on guard duty during the night, they said, yes, that's what we have to do if we have to be loyal to the community so that we protect the tribe. And that tribe and majority of their members survived. In fact, so ingrained is loyalty in our mind that even if disloyalty is for a right cause, we still don't like it. How many of us remember the character Vibhishan from Ramayana? He was Ravan's brother who betrayed his brother for a good cause, apparently. And he helped the right side or the good side, quote unquote, to win. He should be a hero. It's a nice name, Vibhishan, but not too many people give that name to their children. Ever wondered why? What does loyalty mean in an organizational context? I remember I was in a multinational bank. The date was 31st of December 2000. We were all scared. There was this Y2K panic. What does it mean? We were all convinced. Some of you probably won't remember it, but those of you who are old enough and would remember that we were all convinced that maybe the computer systems will stop working at midnight, December 2000, when the date will become 0000. And at 11:30 p.m., we were all at the bank looking at our computer screens, trying to make sure nothing is going wrong. And exactly at 11:30, the head of the bank, at that time I was in Kolkata at Eastern India, he walks in with food for everybody and he says, look, I'm going to be here till past midnight just to make sure that everything is okay. Now he need not have come, not that he is an expert or was an expert on computer systems, but guess what? He triggered, probably without knowing it, something which is again hardwired in our unconscious brain, loyalty. Whenever we see acts of loyalty, we feel good. The fourth foundational lever in our brain is authority. Right from childhood, we are told to respect authority figures. There's a reason for that. Again, we survived as a tribe or as a species because there was somebody in authority who could guide the tribe. So today, when your HR manager or a senior manager quotes the CEO and says that the CEO has decided that we all have to do this, He is subconsciously using the trigger called authority. I remember there is this hospital called Shankar Netralaya. Dr. Badrinath was a doctor in US. So in one of his visits, he met the Shankaracharya, who told him, why don't you start a hospital in India? So such was his respect for authority that he decided that if a hospital is too expensive, he would at least start an eye hospital. So Shankar Netralaya was the result. But the last lever, and this is something very interesting, because there are some things which are even more sacred than authority. And this particular foundation of morality, or an unconscious trigger in our brain, is what we call as sanctity. In the screen that you will see, you find all these 5 levers. 4 of them, care, fairness, loyalty, and authority, are of a particular dimension. And you will find the Indian flag. The dimension of the Indian flag is different. Why? Because some things are sacred. We don't have the right to change the aspect ratio of the Indian flag. How do you use something like sanctity as a lever? Many years back at Tata Steel, there was this sales manager who every year, at the time of goal setting, once the goal setting exercise was done, he will take his team to the conference room. In the conference room, there was a bust, a statue of Jamshedji Tata, who is the founder of Tata Steel. And he would tell each of his team members that you have set a goal. Now I would like you to read it out in front of Jamshedji Tata. Now, probably it's okay if I don't achieve my numbers in the performance appraisal, but it's not okay if I give my word in front of Jamshedji Tata and I don't achieve it. So people knew that they have to be very serious about what they commit. Now that you know the 5 levers which are there in our unconscious brain, how would you use those levers? And if you have to use those levers, then you would need to have practices or rituals which will help you to use them on a day-to-day basis. At Great Manager Institute, we help organizations design, institutionalize some of those practices which help managers to use what is already pre-programmed in the unconscious brain to impact employees positively, create high engagement, lower attrition. Remember, the last word that I'm going to leave you with, it's not about whether you have good news or bad news to convey. Every interaction is an opportunity to build trust. Gone are the days when people were treated as resources to achieve the potential of the organization. If you are a great people manager, you also already know this, that the organization is a resource to achieve the potential of people. And it's your job as the manager to connect opportunities that are already there in organizations with potential of your people. Thank you.